Welcome to Crawlspace. I'm Tim here today with Lance. Lance, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic today, Tim. Thank you so much for asking. I hope everyone listening, I hope they're doing fantastic as well. Once again, we are being visited by a very good friend of the show and someone who can bring so much humor and depth and passion to the conversation. And we cover a bunch of different topics. But one topic that I'd like to cover right now, Tim, is your mood. So how about you let us all know? How's it going?
I'm doing great. Thanks a lot for asking. And yeah, very excited to introduce our conversation with Kim Davis of the podcast Slaycation. And Lance, we've had the other two co-hosts of Slaycation on Crawlspace in the past, and this was Kim's turn, her natural turn. We had Jerry Colbert on, we had Kim's husband Adam Davis on, and now here is Kim. Really cool show, Slaycation, very cool people. I hope you enjoy this conversation. We do talk a bit about some of the crimes that they've covered on Slaycation recently. I know we get into Shanquella Robinson near the end of the conversation, but a good portion of the conversation is about the 2016 murders of Joel and Lisa Guy at the hand of their son, Joel Guy Jr.
And we didn't know what Kim was going to be talking about before we set this up. We kind of made that happen in real time, and we had not heard of Joel Guy Jr. before she had mentioned it, and his crimes are truly horrific and seemingly motivated by money. And Kim takes us through the details of that in our conversation. But if you want to listen to their full episode on this topic, as well as a number of other topics, you can go to their website, slaycation.wtf.
All right, everyone, we hope you enjoy this conversation. Thanks a lot for listening. Please follow us on social media at Crawlspace Podcast or Crawlspace Pod.
We're going to take a quick break for commercial, and we'll be back with the one and only Kim Davis.
Forensic genealogy, the process of identifying unknown offenders through their DNA by finding genetic relatives and building out family trees. It's taken the crime-solving world by storm. How does it work, and what are these cases all about? Find out on DNA ID, the only podcast that exclusively covers forensic genealogy. This season, you'll hear more than 20 solved cases, and of course, we'll continue with our coverage of doe identifications. Don't miss the season premiere of DNA ID on Monday, January 20th, wherever you get your podcasts.
And a thank you to our sponsors. Back to the program.
Kim Davis, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm good, and thank you guys for having me. It is a pleasure. How are you guys doing?
We're doing well. We're recovering from the holidays because we're coming in on this a couple of weeks after the holidays, and we were talking about it off
detected.
Yeah.
No lie detected.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And we've had you on before, and we had you and your wonderful husband on, and we've had your partner Jerry on as well.
Yes, our thruple.
Yeah, yes. I didn't know it was official, but I guess breaking news here on Crawlspace.
Exactly.
All right. Thanks for joining. That's the show. Use promo code THRUPLE on your next HelloFresh order.
Exactly.
Anyway, for those who don't know you, they now know a whole lot about you, but for those who don't know you, can you fill in the listeners, please?
Yes. So I am the host of a true crime podcast along with my co-hosts, my husband, Adam Davis, and our third partner in crime, Jerry Colbert. And we host a podcast called Slaycation that covers deaths, mysterious disappearances and deaths and murders while on a vacation or abroad or away. That's our shtick. So we do a lot of that. So it's there's many different ways that a slaycation can happen. It's if you go away with your husband and your husband kills you, that's a slaycation. If you go away and get killed, that's a slaycation. If you go away and kill, that's a slaycation. And some of our slaycations are still active investigations. Some of our slaycations are missing persons. So it can be a broad umbrella of the type of stuff that we cover.
Wow. And what are your backgrounds?
Well, my husband he's a screenwriter to his heart. He's a true writer to his soul. He's written movies. He's written Just Friends, which had a theatrical release and is kind of a cult favorite now. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's a very funny movie.
Very funny.
Yes, and it's also, it gets a lot of flack for being politically incorrect, which I love personally. I think that makes it very funny. You know, he and his business partner, which has worked on a variety of shows, they came together and made Atomic and have birthed what you see here today.
From the throuple.
Right, exactly.
This is the child that was bestowed upon the world from the throuple.
Exactly. And I'm, not in entertainment, although I did do some, entertainment work, mostly behind the scenes. Most of my work in my adult life centered around, I guess you could say, social work, working in a crisis shelter for domestic violence victims, working with women and children who were dealing with addictions, fun stuff like that. I'm also a compulsive crafter, like compulsive knitter, crocheter, always got a project in hand in my bag, just all that good stuff. So I help out with fiber festivals. That's a little bit about us.
Weren't you making something? Weren't you knitting or crocheting the last time we spoke?
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
I was.
You were.
That's right.
Yeah. I remember that. I think we made a comment. I'm still waiting for that sweater in the mail.
You know what?
Yeah.
It's so close now. I'm actually in the process of seaming the pieces together to make a cardigan as we speak. Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. Hey, you said that you like political incorrect humor.
I do.
And I wrote it down, and this was on my mind recently. Like, why is that even called politically correct? Why do we use that?
I don't even know why that we use it. I think everybody's so fucking uptight, to be honest. Everybody's just so, oh, you can't say that. Oh, you can't say that. It's like, you know what? Let's focus on where it's coming from. How about that? Because you could say the nicest things and mean nobody any good. There's that. And that's what concerns me more. It's the saying all the right things and then not keeping your word or really having nefarious intentions. Yeah, I think that the whole political incorrect and not being able to make jokes and not accurately depict the way, for example, like even in my husband's movie, the going back and forth with banter and brothers that are going back and forth they're going to go there. Okay. Let's just put it that way. They are going to go all in and it's not going to be politically correct. So if you're going to watch a movie that's going to depict that, you should not be clutching your pearls when you hear something that may be a little bit, as the kids say, out of pocket. And so, I just think it's all kind of silly. I think like we're upset about the wrong things.
Yes. Could definitely understand that. And what gets me upset is crime, murder, and injustices.
And there are many, no shortage.
Too many.
Oh my God, there's so many of them. One case that we covered recently was the case of Joel Michael Guy Jr. Have you guys heard of this guy?
No, but gonna be Googling him right now.
Right. Now, if you Google, you'll be like, so, he was a young man, well, in his late 20s. He was in his late 20s. And on Thanksgiving Day, he returned to his parents' home to celebrate the Thanksgiving holiday. Suffice it to say, his parents would not survive that Thanksgiving holiday. So when police came by to do a wellness check, just to see what the hell was going on, they make entry and they walk all through the house and things are not right. You're probably like, oh, they probably found a body. Yeah, they did. Sitting in a vat. Apparently he managed to dismember his mother and father and was literally in the process of trying to just get rid of their bodies or evidence of their bodies by having it soaking in some acid. He had his mom's head boiling in a pot. Yeah, and a complete manifesto in a notebook that he just happened to leave by, detailing blow by blow everything he planned to do to get rid of them. Now, you're probably asking yourself, why would he do this? Was he an abused child? Were they mean or horrible to him?
It's exactly what's going through my head in that tone and inflection.
Well, it turns out that none of those things. His parents, his mother in particular, absolutely adored him. He was very well loved, but it seemed that at 28 years old, his parents at this point in their life were looking to retire. They were essentially completely bankrolling his life as he was trying to get through school. Now, don't ask me why at 28 he hasn't navigated at least an undergraduate degree and is still needing like full-on support from his mom and dad. Suffice it to say, he was still requiring that. They had come to a point where they was saying to him, look, here's the thing. We need to retire. We crunch the numbers and we can't afford to pay your rent, your tuition, your car insurance, your life expenses. We can't do that anymore. So we need for you to get it together. So it's suspected that he was like, holy shit, and decided that he was going to get them out the way so that he could access their money. And it's all detailed in the notebook that he left behind.
That's always so fascinating. And if it wasn't so tragic, it'd be so comical because this person is hit with an actual life moment that we all experience in life over and over. It was like 0 to 80 here.
That's exactly right.
Should I look for a job or should I kill my parents?
Exactly.
Probably kill my parents.
I'm going to kill my parents. And it was just an interesting thing. I think the thing that really struck me about this case was the fact that just the complete and total desecration and disrespect to their remains. Like, I couldn't make sense of that. Now, I'm not saying you can make sense of it. Like, well, if he just, took them on a boat and threw them overboard and it was a nice, clean, the idea that he formulated in very specific detail how he was going to execute this plan and then went ahead and carried it out. It just was shocking to me that just the complete disconnect and that the only thing that mattered to him was getting them out the way so that he can access their money. And
Wow.
The fact that these were people that loved him and cared about him, that raised him, that took care of him, none of that mattered. So that was a wackadoo. I think that was like probably the case that just had me completely gobsmacked for a good time after it, because there was nothing to make sense of it. You know what I mean? Like there was nothing to make sense of it. I'm not saying you should do that to anybody. I'm not saying you should even do that to a stranger, but to do that to people that did nothing but love you and support you and be there for you and guide you. Like, what is going on with that guy's DNA? What happened there?
Yeah, and obviously a premeditated crime.
Very premeditated.
And this happened at Thanksgiving. People joke about like arguments and fights at Thanksgiving, but it's usually like a joke about politics or something.
Yes,
but this just isn't that situation at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. He was living in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and he was going to school. It's interesting because it raises all kinds of questions. And I don't want to judge, but it sort of puts you in the purview of 28 years. Like, I'm trying not to support my kid now. I'm like, it's like the second she could get working papers, I'm like, you got a job? Like, who's paying for that? Like, you're trying to set them up. It's interesting to me that he's never worked. Joe Michael Jr. has never worked. He's never had a job. He's had an internship once.
And then he went to decapitation? Is that what he did?
Yeah.
To his mom?
He decapitated his mom. Her head was found boiling in a pot. He brutally beat his dad. He dismembered their bodies and put them in a vat of acid to break down the remains. And he had a notebook which literally just detailed what he was planning to do. He is in jail now and, has made the case that there was no warrant when they entered the house. So it's just interesting fighting to not have to be accountable for something as egregious. So clearly he doesn't feel guilty.
There's some disconnect here. I'm actually looking at the Book of Premeditation.
Oh, yes.
I'm looking on the on Wikipedia.
Yes.
And like the first four, I mean, get killing knives, quiet, multiple, with an asterisk. Get carving knives to make small pieces. Get sledgehammer - crush bones. Bring blender and food grinder. Grind meat. Get bleach, denatured proteins.
Yeah.
And then it goes on and on.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
this is...
No, he was serious about this life. And I guess like that's the other thing too, when I think about like a lot of these crimes, you know, it's really not lost on me on how many of these crimes are against people that you're supposed to love and care about. It's egregious. If egregious was a person, Joel Michael Guy Jr. there would be a picture of him.
The method in which he chose to kill his parents too, that's about as like personal as it gets. He had a choice. He decided this was going to be a stabbing.
Oh yeah.
And again, like I'm just learning about this as you're speaking, so I'm reading about the attack, and he had this like significant struggle with his father.
Yes.
And the blinds were torn down. There's blood everywhere.
Yes. And he reportedly ambushed his mother, who had come home with a bunch of groceries. And it's reported that she went out and she made a point to get his favorite ice cream. And that just made me feel so sad. I can't even imagine. That was an interesting thing too, because you know how they have those victim impact statements? Joel Michael Jr., his father was Joel Sr. and his mother was Lisa. So Joel, when he married Lisa, had 3 children, 3 daughters from a previous marriage, right? And the 3 stepdaughters loved their stepmother. Okay. So that was very telling to me, because when you have stepchildren, you know, tend to be by default, they're going to be kind of prickly when it comes to inviting a new mother figure into their life after their parents have separated or they're no more. But these girls loved their stepmother. And when they gave their parent impact statement, I remember one of them just saying that she was just heartbroken for her stepmother. Like the realization that must have come to her when her stepmother realized what her biological child was doing to her.
God.
Yeah.
God. It's like horrific to even read. Like the more I'm reading this and the more you're talking, the more I'm like, this is awful.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the wound that he sustained during the attack?
Yes. Well, he apparently, he butchered up his hands really bad. And I suspect that he thought that he was going to be able to easily just take his father out, kill him, his mother. But he ended up really doing serious damage to his hands. And in fact, had left to go back to Baton Rouge to get medical attention for his hands. On his way back, he would be arrested and charged with the crimes against his parents.
And we'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Thanks to our sponsors, and now we're back to the program.
And he was also charged with abuse of a corpse.
Yes, which I think is fair.
Charge him with anything, like charge him
Right.
with whatever. Again, was reading this, like the toxins in the house were so bad by the time they were doing the search, they needed to wear like biosuits.
Yeah, they had to go in hazmat suits to clear out the scene.
My God.
You know, it was interesting too, you know, because there's a number of recordings on YouTube of the trial and of the impact statements, you know, and pictures of him online. And he just has this sort of vacant look in his eye, like something is missing, like there's something missing. And I don't know what it is, but it's like if you look at photos of him, there's like a vacancy and you don't know.
Ugh.
Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's strange. And you know, and that's the other thing too, because I would guess that there was nothing to signal to his parents that he was capable of this.
Yeah.
Like there was another case that we covered, Heather Mack. She was the daughter of a woman by the name of Sheila Von Weiss. Sheila and her daughter had a very contentious relationship. They had gone to somewhere luxurious and nice because they were a family of means. The father, Heather Mack's father, was a famous composer, but her and her mother had a very contentious relationship. Her father had died suddenly, and they had gone away. And while they were on vacation, the mom had booked the vacation, wanting some time to maybe reconnect with her daughter and, heal their relationship. And the daughter, she would fly her boyfriend out on her mom's dime, because let's face it, that's whose dime it is. And they would kill her, put her in a suitcase, try to, dispose of her body. Now, the interesting thing about the Heather Mack case was, whereas in the Joel Guy's case, there didn't seem to be anything to indicate that something like that was around the bend. However, with Heather, just based on the research that I had done on that case, you talk about red flags. This just almost felt like it was just a matter of time, because police had been called repeatedly to that house. She had even broke her mother's arm at one point during a tussle. Like, who's having a tussle with their mom? Like I can't imagine me having a tussle with my daughter. Like, there's just no world where that's going to happen. So she ended up, her and the boyfriend, and she was pregnant. Let's throw that in too. So her and the boyfriend ended up going to jail. He was charged with the murder, and she was charged with a lesser crime because she didn't actually, while she sort of organized, she actually didn't do the hands-on sort of. So she was released, and when she landed back in Chicago, she was arrested. Her mother's family, and I guess her family, wanted her to face that justice here as well. So now she is doing time in prison in the U.S. after having served time away.
I didn't hear a word you said because I've been lost in the eyes of Joel Guy Jr.
I know. Look, I'm telling you, it's like when you look at that guy, doesn't it look like there's something off?
Yes.
Yeah. But, if you're his parents, you would never think that or guess that.
A lot of people, and I get it, you have blinders on when it comes to your kids. You don't want to believe the worst possible impulses of your kid to mean some really horrific thing.
I got to commend you and your two cohorts there for applying a sense of humor to all of these stories, because typically it's family members, right, that do this to each other, because typically family vacations together.
Yes.
That's so horrible. I could never imagine something escalating to the point where.
Of course not, because you're a normal, good human being. And it's just kind of sad and surprising even that I can't say most, but many people aren't. It's really sad that we live in a world where you have to always be on guard. Really, you always have to be on guard. And it's sad to think too that even with family members, because you think, oh wow, if I have to be on guard with family members. The thing that I found really disturbing about the Joel Michael Guy case was the fact that there was nothing other than the fact that he was kind of lost, kind of just stuck in this, not being able to finish school, not being able to do what he needed to do to move on to his independent life. There was nothing to sort of show or give hint that he could be capable of this evil, because what else is that but evil?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's psychotic. I mean, that's, I guess, but I wouldn't even know if he displayed psychotic tendencies. Did he have no empathy? How does he go 28 years of his life and no one said, I don't know if your son has empathy?
Right.
I'm not, trying to blame anybody here, but that's my question. It's remarkable that someone who clearly doesn't have empathy can go his whole life and no one notices that. So maybe that's just the good mask that he put on.
Right. Or maybe he did show it, and maybe it was just sort of the collective feeling of, we're just going to, because people are good at that. Let's pretend that that's not the case. I mean, people are really good at not seeing what is right in front of them.
Ain't that the truth?
Right.
Yeah. I think it's called selective blindness.
Yeah.
Like a year and a half ago, I did one of my like bucket list things, which was get a motorcycle license.
Oh my God.
I like, honestly, that's the only time I've ever driven a motorcycle was practicing during the test. I don't know if I'll ever get one.
But you got it. You got your license.
I got the license. Maybe in a little bit I'll get the motorcycle, but I passed. But anyway, the point of this story isn't thank you. That's what I needed. Well, before we started this, I'm like, I need Kim to tell me congratulations for my motorcycle license I got a year and a half ago. Well, they reinforced this selective blindness, and that's what reminded me of that. When you're on a motorcycle, people will be selectively blind to you, so you always have to be looking around. And even if they're looking right at you, they'll be drawn to you because they don't like actually see you.
Right.
And it's a selective blindness. So there's my metaphor interwoven with a personal story.
Yeah.
We're pros.
We are, as a being, as a people, we really
as
are.
A throuple.
As a throuple. You know, it was one of those cases that I found, probably of all of them, probably the most shocking.
Yeah. I mean, I think you use the appropriate word in evil, and there's not much mystery in it because he wrote it all out.
Exactly.
The mystery is how in the world could someone do that to their parents? Right. We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsor.
And a thank you to our sponsors. Back to the program.
Tell us about another case with a different kind of mystery, I guess.
Yeah. Is there anyone that doesn't involve family members that stands out to you?
Let's see. There's so many. Which would be? Let me see. Let me refer to my list that don't involve. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of those too. That's for sure. Well, the case that is still a mystery and really has had no recent updates is the case of Shanquella Robinson. Have you guys heard of that case? That was the case of a North Carolina woman who had gone to Cabo with a group of friends to celebrate a couple of birthdays in their group and ended up dead. And then there was a video released of her getting her ass whooped by one of those so-called, whoever they are. I don't want to say the word friend. That's another case that just kind of blew my mind. Again, the idea that you could go away with a group of people that you trust, because why would you go away with people if you don't trust them, and end up dead? And one of those people was a friend that she had gone to college with, was a very close friend of hers, so close, in fact, that her family knew him, and so close, in fact, that he would join her and her family on vacations. In the video where she is seen getting beaten up. Have you guys seen that video that was circulating around?
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's a voice in the background that says, "Aren't you going to fight back?" Again, my mind just stays blown because who's recording that? Why are you not stopping that? If you guys are in a group of friends, right? And you're there, you're going to celebrate a birthday, and two members of your party. Now, it wasn't even fighting because it was so clear that she was just being pummeled. She wasn't fighting. One woman was just pummeling another. In looking at that, I was just surprised that they're videoing it, because my first impulse would be, whoa, guys, what are you doing? Stop it. That would be my first impulse. My first impulse would not be to take out my phone and watch my friends and travel companions fight each other. So that's strange to me. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't prove that she was murdered by that woman. It doesn't really prove anything. So that case just kind of remains in limbo.
Right. So remind us what the actual cause of death was.
Well, the actual cause of death was they said that she had a broken vertebrae. That's what she had died from. She was intoxicated. She had a lot of alcohol in her system. The other thing, too, is that her cause of death doesn't necessarily link her to having been murdered, per se, because her vertebrae being broken, they know that she had a fight, but it's a complicated situation too, because, the Mexicans did an autopsy, and then there was another autopsy done. There's also speculation that she could have died of asphyxiation, aspirated on vomit, just having the alcohol and being intoxicated.
And do you see there being any movement in any developments with this story, or?
No, I don't. I feel like the problem was that when it first happened, it wasn't properly investigated. Because what happened was, when she died, those people pretty much that night got back on a plane and went back to the United States. Having watched enough of these, crime and forensics, you know that this is a missed opportunity, because you have to question everybody. You have to sequester them away from each other and get them to talk, and then square up these stories. And once people are gone and have left, it's kind of hard to go back and have a do-over.
Yeah, and I see that Shanquella's family sued the travel companions just this past fall. So, but I don't think there's any news out really about it since then.
Yeah, I mean that's a very sad case too, because she was actually quite a light, from what I understand. She had a hair braiding business. She had a little fashion side hustle going. She was her father's only child, and it's hard to think too that. Because when you think of your kid going away with friends, and particularly a friend that you like and trust, it has to be really disheartening, not only lose your child, but then come to terms with the fact that, no.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. It's tough.
It is tough. We should end on an up note here.
Yes.
What can we how can we lift this atmosphere back up?
Hesitate to ask what's coming up.
Well,
yeah, right. Is that what we should?
If we're
be
trying
asking?
to end on an up note,
right. Well, I think the positive, and look, it's not positive in the sense that, like, when people are in pain or people are hurting, it's hard to really glean the positive. But what we really try to do in Slaycation, while telling the stories, while maintaining some levity so as not to just drain people of their life source of joy, but to also think of these as cautionary tales, and to have people consider their own personal safety. And we try to drive that point home. What can you do to be safe? What can you, how can you protect yourselves? And to just sort of keep that motor running in the back of your head. Protect yourself. Keep yourself safe. If there are any red flags, pay attention to those red flags. Mind your drinking. Mind the amount that you're drinking. These are all things, to just sort of keep in the back of your mind. And so I feel like when we make these points, I'm hoping that people listen and take it to heart and move in the world with, okay, you know what? I'm going on vacation, but I just listened to Slaycation. So that doesn't seem right to me. So I'm going to tell somebody, or, you know what I mean? Just doing these kinds of things, because I think that there's always something that can be gleaned. There's always something that can be learned. And I feel like that's how we honor the deceased. That's how we honor our victims, by telling their story and by passing the message of safety. And, it's like, if you're in a bad relationship, pay attention. If your partner is an asshole, one of my favorite takeaways that I probably have used many times, probably won't be the last one, is, you want to get away with your boyfriend or girlfriend for, to heal your marriage, but they're a little crazy. Go on separate vacations, maybe Zoom once a day, but don't go away together. If we're going to say positive, I think that's the silver lining, just to learn and to try and do better. Hopefully people will do better. That's my hope.
It's a wonderful thing to hope for. And
right.
I'm curious if when you go on vacation with Adam and Jerry, because you guys travel
yes.
as the three of you together, are you guys always looking out for each other, or are you looking at each other like,
both.
they've learned? There you go. It has to be both.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing. I think, like, you always ask yourself, like, oh, were there signs? Was there anything that could have tipped off? And look, it's like I tell my daughter, I tell my goddaughter, I tell my nephew, especially like when they're young, they're dating, they're out here meeting people. And I say the simplest thing to remember is when you're meeting somebody and you're dating them and you're getting to know them, if they're not kind, consider that a red flag. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't serial killers that don't come across, but you spend enough time with somebody, you start to notice things.
And it's never too late to get out.
No. I mean, look, me and Adam were together for 7 years before we got married. So, I mean, so I think, there's something to be said for like really getting to know somebody and really not ignoring the red flags and paying attention. Are we going to be able to get it so that everybody is protected? Probably not. But if it can help in any small way, that's a victory.